The end of 2022 is upon us, and there is a lot to go over in the year that is Transformers, but we're going to do it in parts. And the first of that part is going to be to get the negative out of the way right now so we can end off on a lot of what Transformers managed to do this year, and then eventually, yes, we will be doing the 10 best toys of 2022. But for now, we're going to be talking about the disappointments, the things that let us down, or just maybe me personally down, the things I thought should have gone better, or the toys that I really was hoping for a lot more than what we got. Now, this is not a worst toys of the year list. I wanted to be a little bit more positive than that, and we're not just going to be talking about toys. We're going to be bumping back and forth between toys that let me down versus events and decisions that let me down. So with that in mind, welcome to the 10 biggest disappointments in Transformers in 2022. And that will start with something I have been harping on all year, and I will probably be harping on it next year as well. I have been very critical of the way that Takara Tomy has been handling their Masterpiece Trainbot line. I am not happy about the scale for the price. I am not happy about what seems to be overly complicated, over-complex toys. I am especially not happy with how much they ask versus how little that they have been showing throughout the year. Here we are with all of these trains already released, a bunch more announced. We finally have the release window for the final train bots, and yet there is still no full color example of what this toy looks like when it's completely combined and together and done. Not even a CAD model, not even a nice piece of artwork. For whatever reason, Takara Tomy has been very, very slow to reveal this, which I think is a little bit unfortunate when they're asking people to spend and invest over $1,000 in the set in general. To actually get all 6 of these is going to cost well more than even Unicron did, almost double what Unicron did by the time all is said and done. And I feel like when you are making that kind of commitment to a toy line, you need to show it up front a lot faster than Takara Tomy has. We're finally getting some examples of what the final idea of the whole thing is going to look like, but for me, I really do not see how it is possibly worth the price point they are asking. Of course, I have been out of the Masterpiece game for a while, so maybe it's just me, but for how much they are asking you to invest, and combiners that release one at a time, you're dedicated, you're committed. You know, if you get 2 or 3, and then you find out later on, oh man, this thing doesn't look like it's going to turn out very well, you're mostly stuck at that point. So I really don't feel like this was handled very well, and considering we still have plenty of these trains to go, I think it will be continued to not be handled well into 2023. Now for this one, I don't want to seem ungrateful, but we do have to be honest here because this was kind of a major release for 2022 with a ton of anticipation behind it, but I think the universal agreement is that it could have been done a lot better than it was. We are talking about the G.I. Joe Transformers. Now, like I said, I got one for Christmas, and like I said, I don't think any of the toys on this list are inherently bad, but disappointment and bad are different things. And for what this toy is, I really feel like, yes, it should have been better. I feel like it suffered because they put so much focus on getting the vehicle mode to look as accurate as possible. There's a difference between a Megatron that transforms into, a HISS tank versus Megatron that looks like he would transform into a HISS tank. I know that doesn't make sense. But if Megatron was transforming into a HISS tank, he wouldn't make it black. It would be his colors, but it would be the shape of the vehicle. And I feel like that would have been so much more freeing for the design. I'd say the same thing of the Bumblebee, which I think has some pretty massive flaws to it, especially those giant tires that have nowhere to go and hinder the articulation. And the engineering in general on these does not seem to be quite up to par with what we've been getting in the main lines and even some of the other toy lines. It feels dated. It almost feels closer to the Transformers crossover figures that Takara Tomy didn't have any involvement in, which is weird considering we know Takara Tomy had involvement in these. Now, again, the toy itself is not bad, but for what it is, it feels like it should have been handled a lot better. And considering that this is something that has been in fans' minds since probably the 90s, when Hasbro first started, we've been asking for it for as long as Hasbro has been trying to figure out how to make this happen. They had a chance in the 90s, they let it slip, we've been asking ever since, they finally did it, and I really do feel like they could have done a better job at it. This is the disappointment for some, but for some, this is something to be cheered. It really depends on your perspective and how you like your Transformer stories to be told. The end of IDW's era with Transformers has come, and this is the longest run a comic book company has had with the franchise, and that is something to be cheered. They actually continued this for a lot longer than anyone else managed to, and they told some fantastic stories. I was a big fan of IDW's 1.0 run, especially in the latter half. But I was one of those who really did not like their 2.0 run. I think it was telling a story that was not interesting and introducing too many characters I really didn't care about, and they didn't give me a reason to care about. Ultimately, I just didn't like the direction. It is a disappointment because there's a lot of people who liked IDW 2.0, and it's unfortunate that they did not get to tell the entire story that they were ramping up toward. Really disappointment for the artists and the writers who have a passion for the franchise and really had a story they wanted to tell and never really got that opportunity. It's unfortunate for them when something like this happens. If they were going to lose the license this quickly, I would have just as soon continued IDW 1.0 for another year or two before sending it off. Instead, they tried to reboot, they tried to regain interest, and it didn't work out. So now, in 2023, we await the official announcement for who has the Transformers comic book license now. All we know is that, for better or worse, whether you love it or hate it, we're never going to see an IDW story from Transformers ever again. One of the biggest surprises of the year was getting a brand new set of Stunticons announced after Combiner Wars, even more so to find out it's going to be cartoon accurate this time. And we're pretty shocked at how good some of these are. Dragstrip was really good. Motormaster is a fantastic toy. But there is a counterpoint. It seems like when you do combiners, someone always has to suffer. And in this case, it's going to be Wild Rider and Breakdown by association. This was just... Okay, so imagine you go from Dragstrip, which is a wonderfully imaginative toy that does some really cool things with its engineering to make this really nice looking, really clean Transformer. And then you go on to Wild Rider, who is very typical transformation, not really that engaging to mess with at all. And then you get that massive Kibble backpack, which has extra engineering to just make the Kibble wider and bigger and more ugly, and I don't understand what happened here. Motormaster is fantastic. Dragstrip was great. Even Dead End. Dead End mine has a few QC issues, but even then, it's still a more interesting and more fun figure than this turned out to be, and I cannot figure out why. Why was this engineered so badly? Why did he take a third of the vehicle, hang it off his back, and then give me instructions on how to make his backpack uglier, instead of just figuring out how to make a clean, folded up backpack? You've been doing it for how many years? And you couldn't figure it out this time. I know it's got a bend in an L shape to make the the leg mode for this thing, but really, there had to be some other way to handle this toy. And it is a shame, because I really liked all these new Combaticons until this one happened. And now we know that Breakdown is going to be a remold, so we're going to have this again. And they're going to make very lovely back of legs for the entire time that I own them. A line that really excited me recently has been Beast Wars reissues at Walmart, because it's given me a chance to go back and crack into a few toys I never really had the chance to experience. It was through those toys that I got my first hands on things like Cyber Shark, which always looked like a cool toy, but I wasn't going to go back and pay retail for it, or, God forbid, open up my vintage one. But man, has it gone downhill. Man, has it gone downhill. So we got, early on, we got some show characters, including a few that had never been reissued before, like Rat Trap, and it was a joy to actually be able to get fresh copies of these figures, and really kind of fun to see them on toy shelves again. You know, seeing Primal and Megatron, even though I own the superior anniversary versions of those toys, it's still almost kind of tempting to have that original box and play with the original version of that toy I first experienced at a friend of mine's house. And then you get into the more recent ones. Okay, Wolfang is fine, but then they turn around and do K9 right after it, which is a weird choice to get oddly repetitive so soon. And then you get things like Retracts. Why? Oh, and by the way, along with your Retracts, we've installed the antenna backwards, so they're facing the wrong direction. And we're missing 2 of the legs. So somehow you have taken one of the worst Beast Wars toys, reissued it like anyone wanted it, and then made it worse. Good job. Good job. Good job. Great job all around. Hope everyone got a raise over that. I mean, I can understand if the molds are trash and there's a limited amount of Beast Wars toys you have available to you, but why him? Why of all things him? This line used to be pretty exciting. You know, where are the Transmetals? You know, like most of them didn't get repainted at all. So like, where are my Transmetals? Where are my Fusors? Where's my Silverbolt? Silverbolt got repainted at mass retail one time. You can't tell me that mold is too damaged to reuse. Where's my Quick Strike? Where's my Inferno so he can shelf warm again? But you know, like, I could just keep going on. There's tons of different characters that they could have put out, and yet, here we are. And I'm not sure what happened or why, but this is what we've got. I really hope the line continues, because there's plenty of Beast Wars toys I'd like to go and pick up for the first time. But they've really got to start picking their characters better. This random mishmash of just whoever they find first has got to stop. There's few things worse than a fandom scorn, and we're talking about Transformer Prime fans that can be extra fierce. I've seen how passionate Transformer Prime fans can get. They're a little bit, touchy. Let's put it that way. And then when you do something like this to one of their classic characters, then you got problems. So we were all concerned. We were actually all happy when they announced that Prime characters would be getting new toys in Legacy. But when we found out they were going to be G1ified, that immediately set off alarm bells in everyone. And while RC was okay, it was Bulkhead that really set people off. He's not the same type of vehicle. He doesn't have the same body type. He really doesn't have the right shapes for Bulkhead. Like his uniqueness, his unique body type was completely stripped away from him in favor of just making him something more generic and with a lot less personality. I don't think I saw any toy shelf warm the way Bulkhead did this year. I'm pretty sure I could go to Walmart right now find me whichever Bulkhead I really wanted. It's upsetting. Now we've seen with the recently leaked animated Prowl that they're trying harder. The Skyquake is a better example. Skyquake is actually done a lot better than Bulkhead was. You can see the Prime character in him for starters. This just feels like random toy that was thrown, that a Bulkhead head was thrown onto, and yeah, it's a really unfortunate thing. It was a really disappointing toy. Now again, the toy itself is good, but is it a good Bulkhead toy? No. No, it is not. One of the biggest recurring issues this year was trying to track down exclusives or waiting for different exclusives to come out, because frankly, everybody had exclusives this year in one way or another. It's been a problem in recent years, of course, with things like Seeker packs being really hard to get, especially the ones off of Amazon. But in 2022, all of these problems absolutely exploded, and everything with exclusives has been chaos. Both Walmart and Target have their own exclusive lines. If you actually count Masterpiece and Beast Wars reissues, both major big box retailers have 2 exclusive lines each running right now, on top of all the other Transformers there are to get. In total, there were over 40 exclusive releases in 2022. And if you start including things that were only available through Hasbro Pulse, like Victory Saber set and Masterpiece toys, you're actually getting over 50 toys that were released at exclusive markets in one way or another. And I'm not even counting the Walgreens exclusives that should have been released earlier this year but just now got cited in the US. I'm not including reissues and reruns they did in Buzzworthy Bumblebee packaging. If we start throwing all that stuff in, it's probably way higher than that. There used to be entire years that didn't have 50 toys to buy, and now we have 50 toys to go after just in the exclusive area of the market, which is absolutely insane, and half of them, I'm wagering a guess, nobody actually wanted. I don't think anybody actually wanted a raw chicken skin Dinobot, you know, things like that I don't think are necessary. I'd much rather think, like, could you do some remolding and get me a Thrustor out of that? That would actually be interesting looking. Or a Hardhead. Like, give me like Beast Force Neo Hardhead. Like, that would be super cool. No. Raw chicken. It's not a problem that's likely to go away. I feel like a lot of these exclusives are trying to make up for the fact that we don't have those weird collector club things being released anymore. It's what it feels like anyway, especially when they get into like Diaclone releases, things that FunPub used to love releasing. I don't think this is the way to go about it though. It just really feels like making more toys for the sake of making more toys, and most of the time they seem to end up on the clearance aisle. Seems like an absolute waste when you could be releasing more interesting things, even if they are just repainted things. At least, maybe something that draws a little bit of imagination. I don't know. I don't think this problem is going away anytime soon. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if 2023 was actually worse at this. Speaking of exclusives, there is one in particular that just got under my skin more than any other, and believe it or not, it wasn't the Cosmos that was impossibly hard to find for so many people. Hey, look, there's another problem with all these exclusive lines. But it's in the same vein. It's in the same toy line, as a matter of fact. It is Scourge from Velocitron, and if you've seen the channel before, you know exactly what my issue with this toy is. So, you go and do a definitive modern version of Laser Optimus Prime from Generation 2. Congratulations, looks good. Can we get that as RID Scourge? Because, guess what? More people want RID Scourge than they do Laser Optimus Prime. Though I'm sure any kid would love any Optimus Prime they find on a shelf randomly one day. So yes, that is what we got. And then we find out what it's going to look like. It has your typical Nemesis Prime color scheme, which is not what Scourge looked like. The primary gray colors are gone and replaced with black. The chest windows are there, which they're not supposed to be there. Yeah, your pinks are in the wrong spots, your blacks are in the wrong spots. And apparently this comes down to a designer who, by admission, didn't really look at the original and just threw whatever generic color of Scourge that he knew of. He knew that the windows had to be pink, so he made the windows on the chest pink. He knew the chest is usually black, so he made the chest black. Did you not look at one photo of the toy you were supposed to make? It's a Nemesis Prime. It's not a Scourge, it's a Nemesis Prime. How dare you make the definitive version of that design and then screw up so badly on its most iconic color scheme? Does it look good? Yes. It looks good. Does it look right? No. No, it does not look right. I really want them to take another stab at this. Do a Selects release. Do a Buzzworthy release. I don't care. This toy needs to have another go-around, and they need to get this right because, frankly, it's probably the best G2 Prime we're ever going to get. The fact that it didn't come out in the right Scourge colors is absolutely stupid. Oh, but speaking of stupid, we have to talk about the dumbest thing Hasbro did all year, and we have to talk about the falsehoods that go into it. I've harped about it before, we're going to harp about it again. The new packaging absolutely sucks. So, okay, Hasbro's got this green initiative thing going on, removing disposable plastic from their products, and you know what? That part is commendable. I don't think there is anything wrong with being more environmentally conscious, even if your motives behind it are not what you claim them to be. See, everything about it feels as if they are really just trying to cut costs, because a cardboard tray is a lot easier to produce than a custom-made plastic bubble to store a figure in its packaging. And they don't really have to have the the closed up plastic windows. We could just leave it wide open. Why not? Because half of the buzzworthy silver streaks out there were headless, because people were LeBron Jamesing their skulls in the toy aisles. That's why. The change in the packaging has not only made vandalism much more common to find on a Transformer, as well as just outright theft, it also fails to protect the toy, as the packaging is now much weaker in stability, with a big hole in it. But, can't count how many times I've seen crushed boxes just from the shipping process alone. But also does not protect the toy from wear and tear over time, which means mint in box collectors are kind of screwed. Oh, but all the bigger figures are in completely 100% sealed boxes now, which not only means you can't see the toy you bought, so have fun again, mint in box collectors, but you also don't know if it's the right thing or not. You don't know if the paint was blemished. You don't know if the head was marred during the molding process. You don't even know if it's a return or not. This is also spiked theft of these toys, because, hey, the toy we replace it with doesn't even have to look like the same toy anymore. Person at Walmart's not going to check in the box. Just trade it back in, give me my $55 back. All of this, okay, like I said, I don't think I minded the whole green initiative thing. But everything about it just screams that it's a cost-cutting maneuver. And you can see the hypocrisy when you start looking at things like the Star Wars vintage lines, especially when they reissue Black Series on those imitation Kenner cards, and they're still on a plastic bubble. They do the same thing with retro Marvel Legends releases. They're not concerned with plastic waste. If it makes them money, they're still going to use the plastic material that they claim to be removing from packaging. It's all just nonsense. It's hypocritical nonsense, and they're not impressing me. It's a cost-cutting maneuver. Plain and simple. And I would have a lot more respect for you if you just owned up and said, yeah, packaging's expensive. We're cutting costs. Rather than tell me this is for the best when I'm not sure it is. For my biggest disappointment of the year, we literally have to go to the biggest. We have to go all the way to the Titan class of the year, and that, of course, means talking about Cybertron Metroplex in his Legacy rendition. So I got the toy, I bought it on sale, and I still feel like it's not worth the money that I paid. It doesn't have nearly the playability of the other Titans because there's no base functionality to it, and its third mode is an absolute travesty. There's no additional figure to play with, even though the character is associated with a minicon, and please do not tell me a $200 toy didn't have space in the budget for a minicon. You add this to the fact that the Cyberkey gimmick is also missing. The Cyberkey itself is missing. The figure itself has less features than its original form, and the only thing they really upgraded from the original toy was the work mode, which was always just a half-transformed Metroplex in the first place. The only new addition is the fact that the weapon can now combine onto his arms, which is not a bad trick, but I don't think it makes up for all the stuff that this toy now lacks as a result. Also, the point of the entire design is missing. Cybertron Metroplex looks the way he does because they were trying to make a toy as big as possible at the $40 price point in 2005. Okay, fine, we can work with that, but it's not, as a Titan, you're not going to accomplish that, and they certainly didn't try to accomplish that. They didn't try to make it as tall as possible, like the original toy was. They just replicated the original toy, which kind of took away anything that was really special about it. And did they upgrade the vehicle mode? No. The transformation's a little bit more involved, but it basically amounts to the same non-transformed block rolling around that doesn't really function well as excavator, trench digger. I don't know. The trench digger doesn't even reach the ground. Overall, just I don't know, The toy is okay if you know what you're going in for, but man, it is a letdown of a toy. I really wanted it to be more. I was hoping that it would surprise me once I got it in hand and out of the box, but no, it is what you see. It's just a tall robot man who does a yoga pose and calls it a vehicle mode. Yeah, and it's our first $200 Titan, by the way. So here's to hoping that the Nemesis that we have teased in 2023 comes out better than this, because at least that's a more interesting vehicle, and it will look like a vehicle when it transforms. Yeah. It hurts me to say a Cybertron design is my least favorite thing of 2022, but it is. It really is. And that is my list. As always, feel free to disagree with me in the comments below. It is just one reviewer's opinion. You're going to have your own, and it's the beautiful thing about opinions. Your opinion can be misled, but it can't technically be wrong because it's you. So, please have them in the comments, and thank you guys for watching. Here's to a better 2023 with hopefully not enough disappointments to fill an entire list. Fingers crossed. I will see you then. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.